It's part 2. But overall, like, I think that, using artificial generated imagery is a shortcut. And in fact, I feel like if you are someone who isn't about the money, right? But yet you're adamantly using AI because it's cheaper, then for me, I 100% believe that you are about the money. And do you want to, and to kind of, and you just got to be real with it. You are about the money. That's it. That's as simple as that. You want to cut costs on something as beautiful as creativity. You want a shortcut, and I think it's a bit disingenuous, but whatever. So, anyways, yeah. So overall, I think that while my time at working, I had to develop like intuitive optimizations for my work, and I took it very seriously, man. Like, my contemporaries or whatever, like the upcoming gens, like not the high schoolers, but definitely like within the 20-year-old range, they were all freaking lazy, or like either they were lazy or they just like kind of they were not the most, I guess you could say, incentivized to be intentional, right? Because they're deficient on a reason to be intentional, right? On a more higher reason, I guess you could say. And that's understandable. I'm not gonna lie. It's like we exist within this societal framework at which intentionality and a sense of meaning is very deprived. So I can only imagine why AI is thriving now in a meaningless, soulless society, right? A soulless society is gonna yearn for soulless products, including clanker-made images. But so I don't fault them really or whatever. But for me, I made it upon I made it a solemn conviction of principle to be consistent at maintaining a sense of integrity when I'm working, right? So with that philosophical / perspective out the way, right? What was an example while I was at work that I just immediately thought of? So for example, like there was a stack of cups, right? We had these plastic red cups, Coca-Cola cups. I don't think they're Coca-Cola actually, but they're just like these red cups. Like they're hard plastic. And just one day where it was like a huge stack, and it was like a tower, man. And then I was just like, and this was the day actually I remember where the entire kitchen, or the entire back of the kitchen, or back of the house, was absolutely filled to the brim with dishes, and it felt like a mountain. Like I took a photo just to remember and also post it on my Insta, but like there was more stuff than what was like actually photographed. And so it was a very, very intense day. And there was one memory from that situation where where like I was washing those cups, and then I was like, I had to break up that tower. I have to split up those stacks. And as I was like removing all of the stacks, it like reminded me of isn't particularly level design. This is more, I guess one could argue could be level design. It's more like NPC interactions. But like, for example, those cups like splitting into multiple different cups. It reminded me of the equivalent of in a fantasy game. If you have like a slime creature, and they're like a thick blob of like this slime creature entity thing, and then you cut them in half, and then they split into two, and then like you keep slicing them, and then they split into even more tinier like I guess creatures. It reminded me of that actually, and I was like, yo, that's actually kind of cool for an idea of, I guess you could say, an obstacle that could be thrown at you in game within this like RPG, right? Like, because I'm creating a tabletop RPG, right? In an RPG or TTRPG, where you're doing work, and then that work, the players don't realize it's like what's about to happen, but that work basically splits into like 5 different things that you have to do to get to basically like address the obstacle. And I thought that was really cool in regards to the principle of it being applied in the context of game design, right? And another idea that came about was basically the latter half of my shift. It was towards the closing. It was night, right? We're in the cleaning phase of everything. We were scrubbing the floors, squeegeeing it up, and then I just like thought to myself, like, yo, this, imagine, wielding the squeegee and like the scrubber or something, because the scrubber for the floor, it was a very bulky like item, and it felt like like a weapon that like a tanky character would have in the context of a game, right? Say like a tanky archetype would wield. And for me, I was like, yo, this would be a really good, cool, and interesting design concept for a one-shot actually to run for a tabletop game, right? Where the whole premise is you're an elite crew, you're an elite team of sanitation crew, basically, and you're going out and you're pretty much like scrubbing basically the muck and the grime of society, right? However, the I guess the gimmick to this is that there's an anomaly going on, right? A supernatural anomaly where the filth is actually accumulating to the point where it's almost like it's gaining sentience, and now you have like basically anomalous creatures that are just like pretty much spawning from all the that are just like starting to exist because of all this filth, right? And obviously the direction I'm going to take it is not from a fantastical standpoint of just straight like mystery magic type thing. It's an accumulation of bacteria and bacteria in the context of the environment that I'm creating behaves very differently. It's much more vibrant and very, very active. But anyways, so less static compared to like, say, how things operate in the modern day or whatever, right? So anyways, it's another idea that like came to fruition in my mind as I was like scrubbing the floors. And there's definitely other aspects to ideas that I'm definitely conceptualizing as I'm working here. But case in point, the overall reason why I'm saying this is that from a game design standpoint, I think working in different fields of jobs that's absolutely unrelated to like what you're passionate about is actually a cool thing. Is a cool and I think it's a good thing, and but the reason why it's not for everyone is because it requires a very particular mindset that has to be exercised precursor to whatever you're doing. You know what I'm saying? If you have an attitude and a mindset that you've been cultivating where it's more so of a, you know, like a self-deprecating perspective about reality, and like you're not able to see circumstances, you know, for, you know, with eyes of opportunity or whatever, right? Opportunity and patience mingled with it, I guess you could say. Like, you're gonna just dread every waking existence of whatever it is you do or wherever it is you have to work, because of the fact that you can't, quote unquote, do the thing you love. But the punchline is doing the thing you love will, like, is only going to be diminished in regards to, you know, your, I guess, practice. It's going to become stale, and as a result, to offset that, you're going to have to eventually do other things, you know. And and what's what's a better way to do that than trying to recontextualize the mundane existence of like a capitalistic hellscape, and then changing it into a straight up playground. Like, it's, I think it's very important to have that mental framework, because ultimately it's either you're going to be drained by the society, or you're going to be able to like ride it through. You know what I'm saying? Either or is going to require energy. Either or is going to require, like, you know, some level of exhaustion. But the latter is going to yield more psychological rejuvenation or psychological preservation than the former. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important. And, you know, if you're listening to this video and you're young or whatever, like, I think this is, and when I say young, I mean like from age like 14 all the way to like age 25, right? I think this is a very important